Prime Minister Modi was emotional today, choking up with tears in a speech that spoke about Ramrajya 48 hours ahead of the Ram Mandir consecration. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. Our special focus on the big Ayodhya moment continues. The first images of the Ramlalla idol in the sanctum sanctorum of the Mandir have been revealed to the public at large as anticipation and excitement builds up. The centre has decided to give a half day to government offices across the country. But the debate, the conversations, the discussion continues. This is, of course, an epochal moment in terms of religious sentiment, but it is also a very, very significant political moment, a moment that marks the culmination of a decades-long Ram movement, Ram Janmabhoomi movement led by the BJP, but also of the BJP's Hindutva project. It is and will invariably have an impact on the elections of 2024, especially with the opposition having decided to reject the invite and to stay away. Looking ahead at this moment and discussing all of its many implications, let's introduce our panel on the program this evening. Joining us is the author of a book on Vivekananda, the philosopher of freedom, is historian and writer Govind Krishnan. Welcome to the program. Also joining us is senior journalist R. Jagannathan. He's the editorial director of Swarajya, but also the author of Dharmic Nation. Welcome to the program, Jaggi, as we all call you. Also joining us on the program is Congress supporter Tehseen Poonawala. Never say die, despite the plunging fortunes of the party he supports, though I don't think he's in agreement with the position taken by the party on the Mandir invite. And also joining us on the program today is Satyapal Jain. Mr. Jain is Additional Solicitor General of India and a senior member of the BJP. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. I'd like to start by playing an excerpt of the Prime Minister. He was speaking in Maharashtra. This was not a speech directly connected to the Mandir, but he did speak about Ramrajya in this very speech. And at one point, he got extremely emotional, remembering the hardships of his childhood. So let's take a look at this and his comments on Ramrajya, and then we'll start the discussion. Take a look.
आज पीएम आवास योजना के तहत बनी देश की सबसे बड़ी सोसाइटी का लोकार्पण हुआ है और मैं जाकर के देख के आया। मुझे भी लगा कि काश मुझे भी बचपन में ऐसे घर में रहने का मौका मिला। ये चीजें देखता हूं, मन को इतना संतोष होता है। इन हजारों परिवारों के सपने जब साकार होते हैं तो उनके आशीर्वाद मेरी सबसे बड़ी पूंजी होते हैं।
The Prime Minister emotional there, but also later in the speech referencing what his definition is of Ramrajya. I'm going to play one more clip and then we'll start our conversation.
मेरे परिवारजनों, हमारी सरकार पहले दिन से प्रयास कर रही है कि श्री राम के आदर्शों पर चलते हुए देश में सुशासन हो, देश में ईमानदारी का राज हो। ये राम राज्य ही है जिसने सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और सबका प्रयास की प्रेरणा दी है। दो प्रकार के विचार रहते हैं। एक राजनीतिक उल्लू सीधा करने के लिए लोगों को भड़काते रहो, भड़काते रहो, भड़काते रहो। हमारा मार्ग है डिग्निटी ऑफ लेबर, हमारा मार्ग है आत्मनिर्भर श्रमिक, हमारा मार्ग है गरीबों का कल्याण। और मैं आपसे कहना चाहता हूं, जो नए घरों में रहने जाने वाले हैं, आप बड़े बड़े सपने देखिए, छोटे सपने मत देखना। और ये मोदी की गारंटी है, आपके सपने ये मेरा संकल्प है।
All right, as we look ahead at the Mandir moment, the Ayodhya moment, the politics, what it represents in terms of a moment of culture, faith, spirituality, in terms of how and if India has pivoted, there are so many different perspectives and views. I'll start with you, Satyapal Jain. What does this moment mean to you? Some people suggest keep politics away, but how can we keep politics away when we look at the history, as it were, of the BJP? It was on the back of the Ram Janmabhoomi movement that the party actually went from 2 to 89 seats. And even today, we must acknowledge that this is going to have a big impact on 2024 elections, which are now just a few months away. Mr. Jain, your first thoughts.
See, so far as the agitation is concerned for the construction of a Ram temple, this started 500 years back, 1526, when it was demolished, and the mandir was demolished, mosque was constructed there. But so far as the BJP is concerned, it were we who, for the first time in our national executive meeting held in Palampur in 1988, presided by Shri Lal Krishna Advani, we passed a resolution that we are in favor of constructing a Ram temple at the birthplace of Lord Ram. 89 Kar Seva, 92 Kar Seva, then Librhan Commission. In nutshell, if I may say, for the last 35 years, BJP has been consistently, persistently, seriously, and sincerely fighting for the construction of the Ram temple. And not only BJP, but thousand, lakhs and lakhs of Indians, maybe even differing with us on political lines, were also in favor of the Ram temple. So once that dream is coming true and Lord Ram is coming, the Pran Pratishtha to be held on 22nd of January, it's a matter of pride for all of us, especially for those who fought for and who led and who participated in this struggle. Ram belongs to all. Ram is an ideal. See, somebody said that if you have to go for ideals in life, go for studying the Ramayana. So therefore, it's a matter of pride for all Indians, all people who are concerned with the Indian ethos, Indian mythology, maybe belonging even to different religions. Matter of pride for them. Politics is concerned, everything has a political reaction. Even if you construct Ram temple, even then it has a political fallout. Even if you don't do it, even then it has a political fallout. If there is for everything, there is a political fallout. If there is a struggle, yes, it has political fallout. If there is no struggle, then it has a political fallout. Let's not go into that. I say, hoy soi jo Ram rachi rakha. And I think it was the planning of Lord Ram that now, as Mr. Advani said, credit goes and Mr. Modi will be representing the entire Indian community, maybe in India, maybe outside, entire Indian people when he will participate in the Pran Pratishtha on 22nd of January. Let's congratulate, let's feel pride, all of us, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, and irrespective of our political parties.
Now, before I open this up, Mr. Jain, since you are such a senior law officer in the government, I must ask you, it's been a point of some discussion that the 5 judges of the Supreme Court who delivered the verdict that is in fact enabling this moment have also been invited, and as far as we know are likely to attend. That is a photograph of the Supreme Court justices taking themselves out to lunch, as you know, after the verdict was finally passed. What do you make of this invitation in particular, if you have any thoughts?
See, this is a program, this shows that it is not a program of any political party. It also shows that all those who contributed a little bit or more than that, what was required, all have been invited. And may I tell you, don't exclude the judges from the religious sentiments. You go to a temple, you go to a mosque, you go to a church, you go anywhere, the judges, the president, the vice president, judicial officers, people belonging to different political party, they all participate in religious functions. If they all 5 have been invited, it's a very welcome step. And let's not forget 2 things. This bench is not a bench which can be said, nobody can accuse that it belongs to a particular section of society. It's a composite bench representing all sections or religions. And secondly, it was a unanimous decision of the full bench, constitution bench. Third, as Chief Justice Chandrachud said a few days back, they themselves decided that it will be a joint judgment signed by all, not authored by one, which is very rare in the Indian judicial history. So this all shows that whether you are a judge, you are a lawyer, you are in business, you are in politics, all have been invited, which includes judges also. And I think not only these 5 judges, but many other judges of the country will be visiting that temple, maybe on 22nd, maybe after that.
Okay, let's bring in Tehseen. Tehseen, we already know that you do not agree with the Congress decision to reject the invite, but since then there has been greater ideological confusion within the ranks of the opposition. You have the Delhi Chief Minister saying that all of the assembly constituencies are going to lead parts on chapter from the Ramayana that is devoted to Lord Hanuman. You have Uddhav Thackeray in the India Alliance reminding people that as Chief Minister of Maharashtra in his personal capacity, he contributed 1 crore to the trust to build the mandir. You have Udinidhi Stalin dragging the India Alliance in the complete opposite direction, saying, I will not accept the Supreme Court judgment. There is a temple coming up where a mosque once stood. We do not accept it. And there is the Congress conflicted today. Today, a spokesperson of the party you support receiving a penalty notice for criticizing Kamal Nath. Kamal Nath, who wore an openly sort of Hindu face in his Madhya Pradesh election campaign. So what is going on in terms of when we look at the secularism debate and the politics around it? What is going on with the party and the side you support and defend?
So, Barkha, since you brought in the word secularism, let me first clarify this, that the onus of being secular is not on any one community, either Hindus or Muslims. It's on our constitution. We're all secular. So no Muslims have a problem with the Ram Mandir coming up. There was a legal battle that is settled. And the fact is, when the Ram Mandir judgment came out, since then, Muslims, there's been no sort of tension in the country at all. So Muslims have no issues with this. So any sort of idea that there should be Muslim appeasement is a wrong idea. Now we are talking strictly political out here. So when it is political, you can have whatever the position is. Having no position or having a confused position in politics is worse. And that's what I'm afraid, I'm only speaking politically, has happened to the India Alliance. The communication has been a disaster since September. And we've spoken about this. Since that Hyatt meeting, at no point has India Alliance set the ball rolling. The ball has been set by the BJP. The Delhi Hyatt meeting happened on India Bharat. Since then, BJP set center stage and India Alliance has reacted most of the time differently and confused. So that's a massive problem with the India Alliance. Now, for the Congress, because that's the party I individually support, none of this would have been a debate had they simply just gone there. You can only have a debate if they were not there. So in a way, the Congress is responsible for this debate becoming mainstream. They just should have gone there. And if they would have taken my advice, just imagine a visual, Barkha, Sonia ji, Kharge ji, Arvind Kejriwal ji, Nitish ji, Tejaswi, all of them, Mamta ji, standing together, Uddhav ji, and the Prime Minister on the other side. You would have shown India a united front, but they missed that opportunity. So now all of this is messaging that is sort of trying to, it's half-baked messaging. Having said that, it's not that the BJP is not doing politics. And of course, the BJP is going to do politics, as the BJP spokesperson Jainji rightly said. The images of the Prime Minister along with Ramji on the poles in Ayodhya, I just want to show your viewers because this is not your image. The more image, the Prime Minister.
It's a photograph taken by Praveen Jain. Can you just hold it up? It's worth actually looking at. Yes, so there is the Prime Minister, and then there is the Lord Ram on the electricity pole. We got it.
So can you imagine? Can you imagine? And I'm not a Hindu, but of course I respect Lord Ram and I have my faith in that. Lord Ram has been put out as a cutout along with the Prime Minister. I'm not talking the Prime Minister individually. I'm talking to him as a politician. Imagine Lord Ram has been put along with a politician. I don't think that's right. I just don't think it's right. It doesn't really behove the occasion. So the whole idea has become about the BJP event. Why is Sarpanch Raja Ramchandra ji not invited? He's 100 years old, for your viewers. From the time the matter went to court, 1949, till the last Supreme Court hearing, every single court case he heard, he was representing Ramji's statues in court. He was the representative. He's not been invited. And that's not true. And I do agree with Mr. Jain that this is a civilizational revival for our country. So why isn't the President of India there? She should have been there. She should have occupied center stage. But she's also not there. Despite her getting the invite, she's not there. So for me, of course, BJP is doing politics. But the way to defeat BJP is not to have confused messaging, but to have very clear messaging. The BJP, you have to give them credit. Their messaging is very clear. And Modi ji's moment, or the BJP's moment, could have been defeated by Ramrajya. So Modi ji would have been speaking about the Ram, but we could have spoken about Ramrajya. However, Modi ji's taken that initiative also today in Maharashtra. So you see, Modi ji does and I spoke about Ramrajya on your show earlier, and now he's taken that as well. So he leaves you no space to maneuver because you simply don't take the space. Then what you do is you hit out at everyone, the media, everyone, saying, oh, we are not getting the space. But you'll only get the space when your messaging is coherent. You will lose the space if it's scattered and it's everywhere.
Okay, that's those are two political perspectives. Let me bring in two authors with two very differing perspectives. Mr. Jagannathan, I'll start with you. You are, as I mentioned in the introduction, the author of a book called Dharmic Nation. You talk in a sense about the moment of Bharat, being set free, a remaking, as it were, of India. Many might argue that in this moment that is about to unfold, India is being remade. Do you believe that that is the case, or do you believe that is exaggerated? And I asked you that question irrespective of which side. There might be people who think this is a beautiful moment, a wonderful moment, and then there are critics of the government that believe that it is completely politicized, it is triumphalist. But either way, is it a remaking of India, as the title of your book? I know your book was well before this moment, but I was looking at the title and I wondered if you might think that this is a remaking of India, and if so, in what direction is India being remade?
Yeah, I mean, there's several things. First thing, just a line about the politics. I think if you expect politicians to not play politics, what do you expect them to do? I mean, just like you expect journalists to do journalism, even if it's a Ram Mandir issue, so politicians will play politics. So let's leave that aside. So in any issue, politics will be involved because politics is the power that moves things in a certain direction. So you got to do that. So as far as the Dharmic Nation is concerned, the reason why I attempted the book is I was trying to see what is it that defines our culture as a unified civilizational force. And I find it is the concept of dharma. And the dharma, I don't mean religion at all. In this case, it is about who are we as a people, what are our primary impulses of allowing diversity and difference and not coming to blows over it. That is our inheritance from the past, from the Rigvedic times to everything else. If you see, every scripture actually allows that. Ekam sat vipra bhavda vadanti, and those kind of things happen all the time. So my point is, it's important for all of Indian communities to accept that no matter which god you belong, which tradition you follow, that this dharmic sensibility, if it permeates every individual, you will actually have a very inclusive society. Nobody, not a minority or anybody, will feel left out. You have your space. You don't have a problem with that. The problem comes when you reject the dharmic nature of our civilization, which is to accept differences, live with it, and work out some kind of a via media. In India,
in a way, you have described that as adharm. That there
Yes.
is a kind of adharm, sort of a segment of political or intellectual opinion. But if you had to more specifically define this sort of dharmic roots, because it has been a highly debated, contentious, politically divisive subject over the years, Mr. Jagannathan, how would you define it?
See, it's very difficult to define because just like every Hindu is a Hindu in his own way, everyone who claims to follow Hindutva may be following it in his own way. My own sense is that dharmic is not about anything to do with theocracy at all. That is an individual decision because this civilization was not built top down. There was no historical figure that created Hinduism and said that these are your fundamentals, you have to follow this. It grew ground up and then grew together and learned to accept adjustments with others, right? So that is the fundamentals of dharma. That is, each person has his own dharma, each person has his own way. He has to find adjustment and accept himself as a part of a larger whole, right? We are united by the pilgrimage as being one of the core philosophies, right? We go to everything. Like in this Ram Mandir, some Shankaracharya said, no, that's not the way to do it. But then the Rama was a Vaishnavite sampradaya, right? So they may have their own way of doing things. There is no need for some Shankaracharya to jump in and say, this is wrong, that is wrong. It's not required. I mean, you can follow your own thing. So when you do let's say Kashi comes to a very big situation, I don't think the Ram Mandir fellows are going to say, no, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. So my thing is, we are multiple sampradayas with different points of view, and we have to accept that there can be different ways of looking at religion. But my dharma is not about religion. That is your own sampradayic view, but it is about your duty to recognize the value of diversity and make sure it works in India.
And do you believe that this is a moment after which the country will be different, or do you believe that this is a continuum? Briefly, and then I'll go to Govind.
Yeah, see, the thing is, if you want a sensible polity, you cannot have a Hindu community that feels alienated from its own roots. So we are now in the first stage of the process where a Hindu is reconnecting with his past, and he's not told that there is no such thing as Hinduism, which is what many people in the opposition are still saying. And that there is no such thing as India, there is no such thing as Bharat. All this was created by the British, and the entire role of democracy was created after 1947 by one individual, and secularism is our governing thing. It is not. We are a plural country, not a secular country. Secularism is a European concept.
Yes, and this we hear a lot. Govind Krishnan, Mr. Krishnan, if I may now come to you. This we hear a lot now, that pluralism is a better way to describe our diversity than secularism. Secularism is a borrowed concept. You, in your book on Vivekananda, have argued against the appropriation of Swami Vivekananda by the RSS and the BJP. And you have presented him as somebody who would not be in sync with the politics of the BJP today. But as Jaggi just argued, there is an essential elasticity within Hinduism, which is not a codified single book, single thought sort of faith, just as J.S. Verma famously called it a way of life, that allows for all of these opinions to coexist. When you look at this moment, this imminent moment, what do you see, Mr. Krishnan?
What I see, I would rather like, I would think of this from a constitutional point of view. But I think what is more important in relation to Vivekananda is, what do you think Vivekananda would have thought of it? And while it is, of course, difficult, partly speculated to say what a historical person would have said, but Vivekananda lays out his views on the various elements that constitute the Ram Janma Bhoomi movement. Certain events like the destruction of the mosque that happened, the mobilization around religious identity, there are certain assumptions, certain ideas, and Vivekananda has expressed his opinions on all these things, these kind of things. And I think Vivekananda, if he were alive today, even what would he have thought about the Ram Janmabhoomi movement as such? I think in the first place, he would not have agreed that one should even demand a temple there in the first place. I think he would have asked. Because I'll just quote what Vivekananda says here. He says, temples have no hold on the Hindu religion. If they were all destroyed, the religion would not be affected a grain. It doesn't mean that Vivekananda wanted to go around destroying temples, but he didn't consider it essential to Hinduism. And in fact, temples entered the Hindu religion at a very later date, right? I mean, there's no, in the Vedas, Upanishads, in the Bhagavad Gita, which are the primary texts of Hinduism, there's nothing about temples. He also questioned, he did not believe that the Puranic characters, whether it's Krishna or Rama, he seemed to have thought that they were not historical, they were mythological characters. He says so explicitly. And he said that these are, and this is essential to his philosophy, there are various forms and symbols through which we grasp the infinite, which is the Brahman, or which is otherwise inexpressible. So,
but no faith, if I may interrupt, no faith can actually be measured by laboratory science, right? Like no faith, no religion in the world. I mean, this seems like you can pick up any religion. If we start getting into what is this sort of empirical laboratory proof of A or B, doesn't change the faith of people. People's faith comes from a different place.
Right. So one of the things that Vivekananda was particularly known for, that made him unique among the religious thinkers, is that he made the strong claim not only that religion and reason were compatible. He said that religion has to prove itself by the very standards of evidence that science has to, and that for him, faith, in fact, so for him, he said that what is the proof of God? The proof is pratyaksha, is the principle that this is in Indian philosophy. Shankara used it. He says the proof is that in meditation, you have a superconscious perception of God. You should be as sure of seeing God as you are sure of seeing the table.
Can I just briefly, because I want to also go back to the politics of it, but get Jaggi to briefly respond on what you've said. And I want to connect it to what you said. You said there are some people who say there is no Hinduism. And I remembered, I think it was Justice Verma, Mr. Jain can correct me if I'm wrong, who called Hinduism a way of life. Now, one of the arguments made, one of the things that is said by those who may or may not be critics of the government, may even be supporters of the government, that Hinduism was never a monolith. A Hindu was not a specifically defined, codified identity. And Hindutva and the politics of Hindutva is flattening out the essential elasticity of thought that you yourself referred to. Do you think there is a danger of that? Do you, as Govind Krishnan argues, do you think that, rationality would point you towards a much more liberal interpretation of Hinduism?
No, see, the thing is, there is a time when you need to unite. There is a time when you should allow people to go their separate ways in this thing, right? We have an issue with casteism and other defaults within society. So if you want Hindus to fight for their collective rights, just like if you are a feminist, right? At a certain point, you are a humanist, not you don't have to think only about women, right? But at a time when you feel that you are losing out in many things, you will come together as a feminist, right? So whatever is
also as a feminist, I will choose my battles. I also believe that you should choose your
so
battles.
in Hinduism, one of the best ways we can try and overcome these caste-based divisions is by recalling a collective sense of being, which is being Hindu, which is Hindutva. That is the Twa in Hindu, which is the essence of being Hindu. You're trying to recall in everybody so that you can overcome your caste-based fault lines. That is one part. Secondly, when it comes to Vivekananda, the Jyotirmay Sharma had written a book where he said that Vivekananda himself deviated from what Ramakrishna said. Okay, so with every new exponent of an idea, the original idea changes. Was Guru Gobind Singh the same as what Guru Nanak said? Was Pauline Christianity the same as what Jesus Christ might have told? For every religion changes depending on the challenges it faced at a certain time. So Vivekananda calls it Ramakrishna Mission, but he had his own idea of how it should go forward, right? So I think we should not say that, okay, because Vivekananda believed in this, we should not deviate from everything he said or anything he said. Just like Gandhiism. I mean, you can take good parts of it, but you don't have to accept everything Gandhi said as vital for us, right?
And it's a constantly evolving conversation.
Right.
It's a constantly evolving consensus also. And I would say that most people would believe we stand at that consensus in a way today about what the day means to millions of Indians. I'm not going to say millions of Hindus. I'm going to say millions of Indians. But Mr. Jain, let's look ahead. Since even Jaggi's book talks about the remaking of India, and you are a senior lawyer, you're a senior law officer. Many people want to know that what happens next. Will this country be different? Will there now be, what happens to Gyanvapi? What happens to Mathura? And the reason I ask this is because Tehseen is correct that there has actually been no opposition at all to this moment from Indian Muslims. If anything, Iqbal Ansari, the litigant in the then Babri Masjid Ram Janmabhoomi case, set the tone by saying, ये हमारी तहजीब है, हमारा गंगा जमुना तहजीब है, हम सबका स्वागत करेंगे, मोदी जी हमारे मेहमान हैं. But there is some concern, Mr. Jain, that the Places of Worship Act, which is referenced by the 5 judges, as you know, who delivered the Supreme Court verdict, today is no longer treated as sacred. But this is not the last word. How many temples, how many mosques under which temples may have once stood does this debate extend to? The Places of Worship Act was supposed to have defined the last word. Mr. Jain.
Hoye soi jo Ram rachi rakha. I will say, so far as the future is concerned, nobody can predict the future. And we can't say whatever has happened is the last history or last chapter in the judicial, religious, cultural history of the country. Future will take its own course. And every generation has its own value system. Every generation has its own political or social or cultural values. So far as the Ram temple construction is concerned, I agree with you when you said it was not a Hindu-Muslim issue. Babar was not a symbol of Islam, or Babar was not representing the Muslims. And even if some Hindu demolishes a mosque, he doesn't represent the entire Hindu community. He doesn't represent. So therefore, a invader and a person who has caused the destruction of a temple cannot be termed to be a representative of Muslims. Similarly, a Hindu doing all such of things, demolishing a church or a mosque, cannot be termed to be the representative of the Hindus. I think Ramayana represents the ideal system. As you rightly said, in India, Hinduism has not been defined. The only two judgments by Justice Kuldeep Singh and Justice Verma, that Hinduism is a way of life. And dharma here also is not the traditional concept of dharma, religion, which is being projected by the Western countries. If you go to Supreme Court, the behind the Chief Justice, there is a signboard which says, Yato dharm stato jay. Jahan dharma hai, wahan vijay hogi. It is written in the Supreme Court, which is the biggest champion of the Indian Constitution, the value system. Dharma here means your fundamental duty. Hindu doesn't mean that if you worship Hindu only, then you will be Hindu. A person worships God is a Hindu. He doesn't worship God, he is also a Hindu. मैं जैन हूं, हमारे जैनियों में आगे इतने सेगमेंट हो गए हैं. कोई जैन मूर्ति पूजा करते हैं, कोई साधु संतों की पूजा करते हैं. जो मूर्ति पूजा करते हैं उनमें भी कोई हार श्रृंगार करके पूजा करते हैं, कोई बिना हार श्रृंगार के पूजा करते हैं. जैन संतों में भी आगे डिफरेंट सेक्ट चले गए. वो सिखों में भी हैं, मुस्लिम में भी हैं, क्रिश्चियन में भी हैं. Diversity in different religion is basic concept of Indian religious system. We believe in that. भगवान राम का सारा आप करेक्टर देख लीजिए, वैल्यू सिस्टम राइट फ्रॉम ए टू जेड, सारे रास्ते में राम के स्ट्रगल में कहीं उन्होंने किसी नॉन अयोध्या वासी को, किसी नॉन हिंदू को, सो कॉल्ड हिंदू को, अगर आप इसको हिंदू में लेना चाहें, टॉर्चर नहीं किया, अरेस्ट नहीं किया. द ओनली पर्सन ही फॉट अगेंस्ट वाज रावण एंड अगेंस्ट द I will use the word. What I'm saying is this: Indian culture will be more projected in a more better manner before the whole world. People will read Ram, people will read Ramayana, they come to know India Sarv Dharm Sambhav. We respect all religions, all communities. Anybody saying contrary to that has no place in the Hindu ideology or Hindu religion.
I think that's very well said. But Tehseen, it is going to have to change the politics or the political language or the political idiom of those who are wanting to take on the BJP. Because by not going, I think you and I agree that Hindutva has become a talking point of this election to a greater degree than it may have been otherwise, right? Now, what has to change? Does the opposition have to learn the language of faith before it actually reclaims or seeks to reclaim? You know, Shashi Tharoor famously says we're going to take back Hinduism from Hindutva. How do you do that when so many actually are disparaging of faith itself, or are deracinated in their liberalism, or are colonized, or have all of our ideas borrowed from the West? What has to change?
A lot has to change with regards to the opposition. But let me first come back start from where Mr. Jain left off. He's absolutely right. Jahan dharm hai, wahan vijay hoti hai. Bilkul sahi. So when Ram Rahim is let off, is that dharma? That's not dharma. He's left off umpteen number of times. And the Bilkis Banu rapists, when those who lynched a police officer in uniform in Uttar Pradesh are indicted into the BJP, that is not dharma. When Manipur, that is not dharma. When Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh molested women asking protein powder, and he is today hanging around the holy sites, that is not dharma. So it is easy to talk about dharma. What made Lord Ram truly great and superior, that got respect of the universe, including from atheists like me, born Muslims, is the fact that Lord Ram upheld dharma. Lord Ram did not have to go for 14 years for Vanvas, but he upheld his father's promise. Raghukul Reet sada chali aaye, pran jaye par vachan na jaye. Kaun sa vachan nibhaya aapne? But that, the opposition, instead of asking those issues, asked irrelevant issues. Therein is the problem. Even the letter drafted to refuse was not very well drafted. And listen, Barkha, you can say whatever you want. When it comes to faith and identity, people, that is a bigger connect with people than anything else. And where the BJP successfully has managed to connect with people is on faith and identity. the Congress for itself, because again, I'm a Congress supporter, seems to have forgotten its own prime ministers and the contribution of its own prime ministers, including martyr Rajiv Gandhi, who not only opened the locks, who not only got the Shilanyas, who not only started his election campaign from Ayodhya, who not only in his last interview to India Today said his aim was to build a Ram temple. They seem to have forgotten their own prime minister. Baki सारों को छोड़ दो, अपने प्रधानमंत्री को भूल गए वो. So therein is a problem with the opposition. Now, how does this connect in the 2024 polls? Well, the 2024 polls can still be about asking questions about Ramrajya and promising people Ramrajya in a constructive way. But simply going about dismissing people's fate by calling Sanatan dengue or malaria, by creating some divide, that will not help. You have to see, people don't like it when their fate is insulted. Mr. Jain said one thing which struck me. He said, now people will read the Ramayana. Mr. Jain, with humility to you, sir, my grandmother brought me up and I heard stories. And so did all of us here on this panel. So did you, Barkha. I'm sure I've heard stories. You don't need the BJP to teach us the Ramayana or the Mahabharata or our history or our cultural civilization. But the fact that BJP is able to say it time and again shows you how disconnected the opposition was from people's faith. Who got the Ram serial on Doordarshan? Rajiv Gandhi, right?
Yeah, but you have to make up your mind. When I say you in this case, I mean the party that you support or the opposition has to make up its mind which version of secularism or pluralism it wants to embrace here. And right now it's very confused. I think you and I agree.
Can I answer that in one line?
One line, because I need to go to...
And I agree, you got to speak. There should be no confusion. The problem with the opposition is, and I'm telling you this honestly, they think by doing something, Muslims will get upset or Christians will get upset. That is not how India works. India is too interwoven. It does not affect. So please, what is a larger issue, what could be a larger issue, is that the enemies of Hindus and Muslim kids are the same. Lack of opportunities, lack of jobs, lack of healthcare, lack of growth. Those should be the opportunities to unite. So please get on that. Don't listen to those so-called Muslim intellectuals who come down and try and scare you, because that's not the way it's going to work forward.
Let's allow Govind and Jaggi to come in now. Govind Krishnan, you looked back at Vivekananda, which is the subject of your book. Let's look ahead. As I said, there are those like Shashi Tharoor who have written entire books on why I'm a Hindu, trying to underscore the fact that unless you speak the language of faith in a deeply religious country, but also in a country where religion and culture often overlap in a seamless sort of way. So, you may not believe in a certain kind of institutional faith, but you are celebrating or taking part in a festival sometimes without fully understanding its etymology, its symbolism, and so on. When you look ahead, you look at this moment. I know from your writings that you're not a fan of the BJP. What concerns you? What concerns you the most today?
What concerns me is that I don't see this as a moment of victory for Hinduism. I think it is a moment of danger and for Hinduism. Because see, there once you are saying that, oh, Hinduism is a way of life, everyone can have different ways. Yet you are saying that the BJP and the RSS are saying Lord Ram is very important. All Hindus should, this is a moment of great pride for all Hindus. All Hindus should respect this. All Hindus should be proud of this. I mean, this is disingenuous. You can have either one or the other. This is something that what Vivekananda says that I would like to just quote. He says about Hinduism that the chief advantage of Hinduism is that it was not the work of one single person. And therefore, unlike Buddhism or Christianity or Mohammedanism, the prophet or teacher did not entirely follow up the principles. All of us can agree to principles, but not very much on persons. The persons appeal to our emotions. The principle appeals to something higher, to a calm judgment. Emotions many times drag us down to the level of animals. So when principles are entirely lost sight of and emotions prevail, religions degenerate into fanaticism and sectarianism.
What is the principle you believe? If I may ask you, just in the interest of time, I apologize for that because I have to go to Jaggi and then close with Mr. Jain. What is the principle? What is the principle that you believe is at stake on the 22nd of January, given that this has come from a Supreme Court verdict, given that years of mediation was tried between both communities, Given that, other than maybe one or two Muslim politicians, I have not heard any opposition from, Indian Muslims as a community. What concerns you as the principle that you referenced just now?
Right. So what Vivekananda wants against is that a personality would follow up the principles, right, and that it should lead to violence. Now, what is the legacy of the Ram Janmabhoomi movement? The thing is that when L.K. Advani took out his Ratha Yatra, it's a very communally tense environment. Almost 500 people, I think the historian K.K. Panikar estimates that some more than 500 people died before the Ram Mandir demolition. And I think, I don't know the exact number, I think over 1,000 people died after that. This was the result of the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. It is part of his legacy. Now, what is the principle that Ram represents? Ram represents Maryada, Dharma, tolerance, acceptance, justice. Now, when Sita was kidnapped by Ravan, and he sends Hanuman to make. I'm talking about when he kills Ravana, his mortal enemy. He still asks Lakshman to go and receive instructions from him on statecraft because he's a great king. Now, this is what Ram represents. How does the lost lives of thousands of people, of all those families of Ascenda, represent the principle of Ram?
Let me take the essence of your question to Jaggi and then give Mr. Jain the last word. This kind of openness, the Maryada, the compassion, the Lakshman Rekha, the lines never to be crossed, the respect for red lines, and I think even Tehseen references that the opposition should be talking about, does Brij Bhushan reconcile with any principles that this sacred day, this moment of sanctity represents? That's question one. Question two is the debate around pluralism. Now, on the one hand, we do, these points have been made. The state should get out of the business of running mandirs. The state should not subsidize religious pilgrimages. We need to relook minority institutions. The AMU cases before the Supreme Court, as Mr. Jain knows. But on the other hand, there has been a public holiday that has been declared. This is a point of debate. Maharashtra has declared a public holiday. The government has declared a half day on Monday. What do you think of that, Mr. Jagannathan?
Yeah, see, I'll not comment all those individual cases of, Brij Bhushan and all that, because I think those rogues exist in all parties. So I am not going to hold a brief for the BJP on how they handled it, because this is how parties are doing this in the interest of their political future. I don't think this is dharma. They should have been condemned right away, but they haven't done so. Does not mean that they're not right on Ram Mandir or whatever it is, right? And when it comes to Ram Mandir movement, I think there is a time when you're trying to break out of a civilizational inertia. That energy required is often tends to have some side fallout in where people may have got killed or violent and all that happened. I mean, without that surge of that movement, you think it's like during the Mandal politics, a lot of things happened, right? But when you are trying to do something on social justice or faith, the inertia can only be overcome with a very large push. That is the reality of all change. So we have to accept that. The last thing I'll say on the Hindu-Muslim question, let me tell you, in my belief, neither Hindus nor Muslims are the real villains here. The villains are the left, who deliberately sabotaged an attempt to solve the issue during Chandrasekhar's regime by writing a historian's report to the nation, which was entirely fictitious, based on non-archaeological assumptions, and when the archaeology was clear. Okay, even today you go to Mathura and Kashi, you can see what has happened there, right? So in this case, they deliberately lied to the people. They actually prevented what could have been a samjhauta and would have led to good Hindu-Muslim relations. I think even now there is time. We need to have a history, truth, reconciliation effort following up. And I hope that's the way that this thing ends.
Okay, Mr. Jain, the last word to you. You said that nothing is static. No one can predict the future. Things evolve. Even laws are either abandoned, read down, or change. But personally, speaking in your personal capacity, do you believe that this moment should close the debate around other places of worship? Or do you believe that this is the beginning of opening that somewhat painful conversation that could create further ruptures? How do we ensure that this is a day of inclusion and not a day of triumphalism, a day of unity and not a day of division? The last word to you, Mr. Jain.
See, for me, I will say that it is a matter of pride for all Indians, not only Hindus, not only belonging to a particular section of society. Number two, somebody asked a very pertinent question from a religious leader, that what is the difference between Ramayana and Mahabharata? And the one line reply was, ideal life, मर्यादा का जीवन जीना रामायण है, सत्ता का संघर्ष महाभारत है. I hope in coming days it will be a मर्यादित जीवन for all of us, not only for one section but all of us, and all people, whatever the controversial issues are going to come or have come or are not being taken into consideration at this particular moment, should be, will be, and I'm very hopeful, sorted out, if need be, through the judicial intervention in an amicable matter in the best interest of the nation and the country as a whole. Third, those deviations are everywhere. My friend just pointed out, he mentioned some names also. Today, that is not the issue. Deviations are everywhere. That is among the Hindus also, Jains also, Christians also, Sikhs also. Everywhere deviations are there. But I will close by saying one shlok from Gurbani. चंगियाइयां बुरियाइयां वाचे तरम हदूर, जो अच्छे या बुरे काम आप कर रहे हैं वो सब भगवान वॉच कर रहा है. चंगियाइयां बुरियाइयां वाचे तरम हदूर, करनी आपो आपनी के नेड़े के दूर. जो जैसे कर्म करता है उसका फल उसको मिल जाएगा, किसी को पहले किसी को बाद में. जो मर्यादा को भंग करेगा वो भी अपना उसका फल भुगतेगा, और जो मर्यादा का पालन करेगा उसको भी आशीर्वाद मिलेगा. इसी उम्मीद के साथ मैं कह रहा हूं, आइए फॉर फ्यूचर एमिकेबली बैठकर इशू सेटल करें, जैसे सुप्रीम कोर्ट के 5 जजों ने यह मामला हल किया है. मुझे विश्वास है बाकी मुद्दे भी बातचीत से हल होंगे इन द बेस्ट इंटरेस्ट ऑफ द नॉट ओनली हिंदूज, नॉट ओनली इंडियंस, but the entire humanity. We will be able to sort out all the issues.
Okay, I was going to close that. I think the humanism of Lord Ram that you have invoked, Mr. Jain, is something that we can all agree on across ideologies, across regions, religions. Tehseen, did you have a sentence to come in with? You were raising your hand.
Yeah, the humanism of Lord Ram, and what makes Lord Ram the ultimate Raja, the ultimate king, apart from being the god, or Ramrajya, is the fact that Lord Ram took everyone along. Lord Ram never distinguished. When the Ram Setu was being built, a squirrel came to the bears and monkeys, to the Vanar Sena, and said, "Can I help?" And they laughed. They said, "You're a squirrel. What will you pick up these bricks?" Lord Ram involved a squirrel and then patted the squirrel's back. That's why it said that the squirrel has stripes. When Lord Ram returns to Ayodhya with Sita, the transgenders were left outside Ayodhya. Lord Ram got the door opened and they were welcome. That is Lord Ram's greatness, inclusivity. The question is, Mr. Jain knows, is this government truly inclusive, or is it just pretending to be inclusive? Lord Ram knows the truth and we know the truth.
Okay, Mr. Jain, very, very quickly, 30 seconds. Mr. Jain, 30 seconds.
नहीं, I say Lord Ram का जो जीवन है शुरू से लेके अंत तक, हमारे यहाँ किसी के बच्चा पैदा होता तो हम कहते हैं राम का शुक्र है, शादी होती तो राम का धन्यवाद करते हैं, और जब उसके फूल भी डालने जाते हैं तभी राम नाम सत्य ही बोलते हैं. तो राम जन्म से लेके अंत तक है. हम सब उनके प्रिंसिपल्स का फॉलो करें, दूसरों की कमियां निकालने की बजाय अपनी कमियां निकालें तो ज्यादा अच्छा रहेगा.
Okay, we leave it there. I think we can all agree that what we need is a spirit of compassion, generosity, and inclusiveness. That is what should be drawn from the day that we're about to witness. If 48 hours from now, the debates will continue before and after. But this is the one principle that is at the heart of our constitution: equality for all, inclusion for all. Thank you very much for a very interesting conversation, Govind Krishnan, R. Jagannathan, Tehseen Poonawalla, and Satyapal Jain, and to our audience. Thank you. See you soon. Mojo Story has always made a commitment to its viewers to go to where the story is. And as you can see here, we are at the epicenter of the Israel war on Gaza. We are right at the front line, about 1 mile from the Gaza Strip, as the Israeli military gets ready with its tanks and its gunners to begin its final frontal assault that will take troops into Gaza. As we said, we are not like other organizations. We believe in giving you all sides of the story objectively and as much as possible from the ground. And that's exactly what we're doing here, covering the biggest global story today from the epicenter of the war zone. So please, we need your support. Support us, become a Mojo member, subscribe to us, spread the word, and thank you for your support.